who is constantly in fear is every day condemned. The man.
Hi, Milcos.
Hi.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this Chanel show in Senegal. When this happened, I didn't know how to process it. I still don't, to be fair. So I'm trying to make sense of what happened. How do I look at this? How do we unpack this Chanel show in Senegal? So I reached out to you. Who better to ask than you, who is Senegalese, who's an artist, a designer that went to the show? You were there.
Yeah, I was there, yeah.
So can we just talk about this Chanel show? And I want to just get all your thoughts.
I think it was just wonderful, to be honest. It was really great. It was really inspiring, the whole experience. And for me, as a Senegalese, that's what I was saying to friends that didn't go, or the younger people that are aspiring to be in the art scene, in the design scene, or in the fashion scene. I was saying this is a big example of how to get things done, how things are done in the world or in the industry. It was a big show. I think they had like 800 guests.
Maybe I'm wrong, but how I see it to be is there's no pre-existing relationships between Paris and Dakar necessarily. This is what makes this show so unique and this whole situation sort of groundbreaking.
Between Paris and Dakar, in what term? In terms of fashion, or in terms of just two cities, like relationship between the two cities?
I mean, with the house itself, and then hosting and having a show in the city. So perhaps maybe a relationship with the two cities from the house to location perspective.
Chanel is French, so, obviously, but from my perspective, they're starting to just widen their horizon, because Africa is becoming maybe the next market, and the young generation the population is growing in the continent, and then it's evolving.
Yes.
Everything are getting developed here. So for me, Chanel doing something in Africa, because the other brands been doing it. You have Dior doing it in Morocco, and recently in Egypt. So for me, that was a natural choice for a house like Chanel to do it. If they wanted to do it in West Africa, Dakar is the best choice for them, because it's stable. Art is really something here. Fashion also is really something, even though we don't have like maybe big houses, but Dakar is booming in that term. And if you see the whole region of West Africa, in the French, the Francophone side,
right,
there's no other choice. I mean, there's Ivory Coast, you have like, Abidjan, but Dakar is more artistic than Abidjan.
Right. That makes total sense to me. Clearly, the reasons are strong, but I'm trying to understand, was this a new relationship, or is this from the house actually coming in, or do you think there was previously existing relationships like you just mentioned other houses have?
I don't think so. I don't know, not that I know.
So this is new relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's just contextually insightful. Okay.
So, Chanel, they have a gallery called 19M, 19M. That's the artistic side of Chanel, let's say. Like, let's say, for example, Cartier or Louis Vuitton, they have their foundation, but Chanel, their gallery is called 19M. So I met with the director of 19M, and I met some of the people that work there. Because right now, what they're trying to build is not just to come in Dakar and do the show, but they wanted to see how they can impact. That's what they said. They wanted to see how they can impact things, not just only do a fashion show and then go. So yeah, I think they did a great job of making people feel respected.
How?
Let's start with the invites themselves. You have your name written, the packaging of the invitations, the detailing of everything. It was something that makes you feel, oh, okay, Chanel wrote my name on a paper. by hand. But it's not only about the small gifts, but there's the whole process of giving you the invite.
Where is it?
Yeah, it's here. Wait, let me show
Yeah,
you. It's not
let's
far.
see it. It's amazing.
So yeah, see, you have the whole package.
Oh yeah, yep.
And you have your, see, I don't
Oh,
know if you have the name.
yeah.
You have this with a scarf.
Oh, let's see the scarf.
It's a silk scarf.
Beautiful.
See, yeah, and then you have the a chain, a gold-plated chain with the of this.
Oh, I love that.
See, so you have yeah.
Yeah,
Even the packaging of it is really beautiful of the chain. It's really premium, and I don't know if the lighting is
yeah,
good.
it's beautiful.
The small magazine here. So here's the magazine.
Beautiful.
Um, so yeah, and the thing is, the process is they sent an email first to see if you will be in town and all. People called me first, the agency that organized, and also the people they've been collaborating with in Senegal. They have like people from the French Institute, and then the people from another gallery here. They were collaborating with them. I think they were just seeing who is important to invite, and also they contacted me to see if I will be in Dakar around that time. I said, yeah. The first person didn't want to tell me what is it for. I said, okay, but I've been traveling a lot, so I might be in Dakar, but for what? Because when they contacted me, I was in Belgium, I think, or in Germany, I think. I don't even remember. And then the other person that contacted me told me, yeah, I'm Chanel told us to see who, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, but if I'm coming, my wife is coming. We said, okay.
Well, first of all, where was it held exactly? What are your thoughts on the location?
It was the perfect location for it. There's the former Justice Palace. It's a big building, really nice building. It's like an emblematic building here in Senegal, but it's the former one. So that's where they've been doing like the last three Dakar Biennale, like the in, because in the Dakar Biennale you have the ins and the offs.
What does that mean?
The in is like the official space or the official Biennale. It's like where the organization of the Biennale invite artists, the space where the artists that the Biennale organization invite to do exhibitions. The official selection covered by the government to the official Biennale bureau, let's say
Okay.
that.
This does sound like the perfect location.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
Wow. Okay. So it looks like it was a covered portico outside, inside. What was the actual?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like let's say a mansion corridor, but
Okay.
the big one. And the building is big. It's like big, big, big. So what was wonderful inside, there was not front row.
Exactly. You're kind of seated around pillars.
Exactly.
Where it didn't give you that sense of order. It was a completely different viewing experience from video.
Exactly. And it was perfect because it was not like, okay, you're important, you're in front, and then you're not important, you're in the back.
Right.
So the model will go through all the lines, so you'll see them closely. It was just the best setting. It was the best setting I've ever seen in terms of fashion show.
And how did that translate emotionally, being there in person?
Great. But for me, to be honest, in terms of content, it's not my thing, Chanel, in terms of creativity. I mean, you can see the creativity, but in terms of what I see, it's not for me.
Why do you say that?
It's not my taste in terms of design.
Why? In which sense?
That's my perspective, but I think it's reserved to a certain people and a certain class. I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but I don't feel connected because for me, it's not really contemporary. It's just not my taste.
I hear what you're saying is you saw the beauty and you
Exactly.
appreciate it for the style and the aesthetic that it is. But
Yeah.
from a design perspective, it doesn't connect to your style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that that's not a lone sort of perspective on Chanel.
Yeah.
And I think that they are okay with that because their
Yeah, I
core
think-
audience is so strong and that's who they're talking to.
Exactly, exactly. So I can see the thought process, and you can see like there's work that went through some pieces. In French, they say méticuleux. It's really, precise and all, but it's just not for me. So, but you can appreciate the work that went through it,
Right.
and yeah, I think the collection was beautiful. It's just not my taste, but as you said, you can appreciate beauty even if it's not, your thing. But for example, my wife connect with some pieces, although she's really like into fashion, but she said, "Oh, I like this piece, I like this piece, I like this piece." So yeah, it's just perspective and taste. So
yeah. So I'm just curious from your perspective how you translated the patterns and the cultural richness and the heritage that Dakar holds. I'm putting the frame around from your perspective because your work is so deep and nuanced and cultural, how you translated the Chanel show with their work. Because if I'm not mistaken, there was supposed to be the adaptation of, and is this true, the cultural richness of Dakar incorporated into the fashion, or was it strictly Paris fashion in Dakar?
Yeah, that's how I saw it. I saw it like Paris fashion in Dakar. Some pieces you have like a lot of pearls in some designs, so you can translate that into maybe some West African countries. It's mostly East African countries that use a lot of pearls. You can see them a lot in Kenya and in Tanzania. There's some pieces that I saw that look maybe familiar to that. But other than that, from my perspective, it's Paris fashion in Dakar.
I'm just trying to understand the weaving of the cultures.
Yeah, that's also something that intrigued me in the show, because when I met with the design studio from Chanel, I discussed with one of them, and he told me they're here to see things, to get inspired and all. But I didn't see anything that I can relate.
I see. So they came to be inspired, that they translated into the designs, but from your perspective as a Senegalese designer, that's from the cultural perspective, it didn't connect with you.
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't.
Okay, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
what did connect with you from your perspective within the show, really speaking?
But there was a lot of Black models. That's one thing.
Were they local?
Maybe one or two, I think. There was some from Senegal that lives in the diaspora. So that's maybe some type of connection. Yeah, other than that, like in terms of connections, I didn't see a lot of connections, to be honest.
About music.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was one. The opening was excellent. So they took a young Senegalese singer who's great, called Aubrey Daman. So he did the opening. The opening was really something else. So he was singing, and then there was a choir that was, with him. So that the opening was great. And the music was cool. It was not like Senegalese music. Not the opening, but the music of the runway was great. I can't say it was great. It was just contemporary music from everywhere. It was not like Senegalese special music or African music, but it suited the show. I can say that. Yeah, it was tasteful.
It was tasteful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be your takeaways as far as what do you think was a home run? Like they killed it? And then what would you say for the next time, or for another luxury brand that wants to come in and do a repeat of this? What would be a learning moment of how to do something better?
I think they killed it, to be honest. In terms of organization, they started on time, in terms of the invites, in terms of how the setup of the space were done. The show was really well organized from my perspective in the city where it's really difficult sometimes to pull events like this.
That's interesting. What you're
Yeah.
saying is because it was so well done to such an impeccable detail that given the challenge to do that
Exactly.
with what resources or whatever
But
the reasons.
yeah, they have a lot of resources and they come also with a lot of material. They work with a lot of locals.
Yeah.
But they bring also a lot of experts in different domains.
I see. So they rolled in heavy, but that goes back to your previous point. They rolled in heavy.
Exactly. It was heavy. It was like, really, really heavy. I saw one person saying, "Oh, there was not enough like staff from here." I said, "Oh, let's be honest, among each other. We know how it's challenging to do like big events in Dakar. They're late most of the time. Things are not really well organized most of the time. There are some that are good, but it's really a challenge." Yeah, they did it. Maybe in the back scenes or behind the scenes, there was maybe messy things. I was not in the back scenes,
Right.
but from a perspective of someone that was invited and then came to the show,
Right.
it was great.
I would expect Chanel to come in with a beautiful show. It's Chanel. I would expect any French luxury house to do that from a production standpoint. That to me, if it wasn't that, I would say then it wasn't French luxury.
Yeah.
For me, the areas of growth are always in the detail of the nuance beyond the shiny, beautiful objects.
Right.
And I find that to be most curious when you're looking at the nuance of culture. French creative directors have been inspired or appropriated the culture globally and incorporated that and never really, paid back or went to or connected with, or maybe didn't even travel to. It was the using the alliteration of the narrative that is just not even true at times, though, the sort of false identity of the exotic, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think this notion of breaking that barrier is seminal in some degree.
Yeah.
And I think it takes courage, and I think it takes a foresight to want to globally connect and have a presence. And I think we're going to see more of it if that's my prediction.
I'm sure we'll see a lot more, because also in terms of business and in terms of cultural understanding, because Senegal or West Africa, if you interrogate the history, we're really connected with France in terms of colonization.
Yes.
And even prior to 1960, like some of the Senegalese, like in Senegalese city, were French citizens. That connection existed like culturally in between France or between Paris and Dakar.
Yeah, right.
They used to call like the countries the colonies. It's in French, it's les colonies.
It's a new dynamic. So I think the challenge is to honor the past of how that relationship was and then build new ways. That's very nuanced and delicate and sensitive in some ways. No?
It is sensitive, and it is, for me also, that's also the critical part that is coming, like the political part in me, is France been losing territory these last 10 years in West Africa. The new generation wanna, build a 50-50 or an equal relationship between France and the West African countries, because that's what I know, what I'm more familiar with, like West Africa. So the other countries are taking territory. That's also the political part. So I think it's also a tool for like the French country in terms of soft power, in terms of all those things, to create a new dynamic, because fashion is also a way to connect with people without being too political, even though it's political sometimes.
Right. Of course, 100%
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So that's also another perspective. Yeah, because France has been, in terms of business, in terms of a lot of things, they've been losing territory. So using, I mean, not using, because I don't think maybe the government uses Chanel to do that, but a French house doing a big show here in
Right.
terms of image, in terms of the French image, in terms of the French, it's good.
Yeah, the optics are good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, when you're saying this, why not bring in local designers such as yourself, Sally Robbie Kane, others, under the umbrella of Chanel, but all designed by local artists using the resources of Chanel? Like, for example, as a designer, if they invited you in and said, Milcos, come to our studio and go design something, what would you do?
For me, it's not a dream, but for example, I've been working in a lot of things that, I don't have the resources, I don't have the level of budget. But the thing is, the terms has to be clear. People have to know that I worked on it.
But that would be the point. It would be the Chanel show, and this is called collaboration with your name, and then but under the house of. This happens all the time in fashion. This is not a new concept.
Exactly. I have a friend who used to work for Chanel. So when she knew that Chanel was coming, she told me, let's propose something like what you're saying. But I think she started late. But they answered, they said, okay, let's just set our meeting. But after the timing was just not good.
Right.
But that's maybe like things like that you're proposing, and also collaborative things. But when we were discussing, and then she told me, like, if they told you about collaboration and all, though, would you agree? I said, yeah, but my name will be on it. She told me, I'm not sure they will accept. I said, so I'm not interested.
No, because that's not collaboration at that point.
Exactly. So if they won't accept, I'm not interested in working without just my name being there. Because it's not an ego thing. It's just culturally, like, to see that, okay, a Senegalese or West African work in it in with a different perspective. So I won't give them my work like that, and then they'll just say Chanel.
That would be a colonized approach.
Exactly. So I told her, no, I'm not, because she wanted to see, like, my perspective. If she wanted to propose that, if I'm willing to, participate in the design process of some things, not this collection. I said, yeah, I'm down for it, but it has to be a collaboration.
No, but look at Tebe Magugu with Dior. People are doing it.
Exactly.
Maybe it's more popular now because people are trying to bridge cultures and become globalized, and they're seeing the value of Africa, and people are demanding respect and equality with financially as well as artistically. People understand now the negative ramifications of colonization, and the only way to overcome that is to be equal and share a voice.
Exactly, collaboratively. So I think Chanel is not ready for that yet. That's what I'm seeing. Because if you see Dior, they just did like something with Tremaine. So they've been doing it. And even the collection they did in Morocco, the cruise collection, and they worked with a lot of designers, like even from Ivory Coast, Pateo. They worked from with a lot of people, and then mentioned them like as a collab.
Yeah.
And so, but Chanel, for me, the collab they've been doing, other than like things with Pharrell or others, I don't see them doing things like that. They're really conservative. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I know that they also use a French film guy who's from Mali. So I think right. How do you think they're choosing these partnerships in the early stages? Because when I look at this, going outside their comfort zone, they're making decisions that they haven't done before in the past from a very conservative, controlled perspective. And they're choosing people that one could argue are great choices. I'm just wondering how they're going about that, and how, like, from your perspective.
From my perspective, let's say Lightly, he won an Oscar. I think that the choice they made from Lightly is he's doing something in Dakar because he opened a film school in Dakar.
That's right. So that makes sense.
So yeah, that makes sense for totally because he's French and he's really well known in France. Although he's been underground for a lot of years, but since he won the Oscar, people been talking about him a lot.
Yeah.
So that makes total sense for me, like them working with Lightly.
I'm going to take the stance that Chanel and other French luxury houses are now investing appropriately in developing new relationships with the right intentions of being successfully appropriate with how they're allocating the resources and building these relationships. And I think that that takes time. I think it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You have to have a sense of history to have trust. But I am gonna take this show as a win, and I'm gonna view it in a positive light as just the beginning of a new direction.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I do think it's an early stage for a house like Chanel because, as I told you, it's heavy. It's a big boat, heavy to move or to maneuver. So they won't take useless risks to just, we're open to collaborate. I think they will study people that they will collaborate with. They will take time to do it. I think it's a good start for them to do a show in Dakar. And then also the other activities they plan to do. We'll see where they're going, but I think it's a good start.
And what's the follow-up?
I think now it's more the impact they're trying to have. There's an exhibition that will happen the 13th of January. So there's a lot of artists here, and they're working in weaving arts and embroidery.
Weaving arts and embroidery. Okay, interesting.
I think there's also master classes that are planned.
And who is doing the master classes?
I think it's collaborative. One of the pioneers here in weaving art, whose name is Aisa John. I don't know if you know of Aisa John.
How do you spell that?
AI 2S_SA. Dion is DIONE.
Okay.
I think she works with Hermes, Louboutin, and some other brands.
From a structural standpoint, positive investment has been made and is continuing to be made. Having an exhibition gives platform. Having master classes continues the dialogue. So it sounds like the investment has been made to continue the relationship in order to continue the growth. So I think, I'm going to say this has been great then.
Yeah. I think it's something great in the, a beginning of a new relationship. We'll see where it goes. But for now, I think it's positive.
I needed your lens and perspective to be able to decipher what I'm looking at. So you have been my tour guide to Senegal via Chanel. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
And thank you for making time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.